I'm really glad that you registered for this. Like I said on the post-registration page, this is probably the single most important thing that we do at all of our businesses. So I'm glad that you guys who are here saw the value in that, and that you're taking the time to be on here and to learn this stuff. I realize that this isn't the sexy, how to make $100 billion tomorrow, or how to drive all the traffic you could ever imagine. I mean, this is but this is the stuff that really matters, and so I think it's cool that you guys are here, and it really is, as the subtitle would suggest, it really is the secret to becoming unbeatable in any market. So we're going to be diving in here in just a second. I want to give everybody a chance who's coming on a little bit later to join us. Also, we did more than fill up this thing, and like we always warn, we can only hold 1,000 people on these things. So do not hop off this training. If you hop off, you will probably not be able to get back in. Okay, and make sure that you guys are taking good notes. We are not going to be offering recordings to this because, frankly, I only want the folks who took the time to see this. Who took the time to get this, to have access to this information. So make sure that you're taking good notes, and you'll be rewarded for that, and you'll have information that, frankly, not everybody has. So with that said, if you would please, in the lower right-hand corner, there is a questions box. If you can, or a chat box, if you can just tell me, I should have said this at the beginning, if you can hear my voice and see my screen, will you please just type yes and yes, or I can see and hear you, Ryan, something like that, so that we know that everybody's good. Okay, it looks like we're good. Now, there is going to be some interactive parts where I'm going to be asking for your feedback, and we're going to be going through some things together during this training. So that's the area that you're going to be using to kind of give me feedback. I'm going to do my best to, if I see a question come through, to answer it. But guys, there's a lot to cover, and I may not be able to get to all the questions. So if you post a question and I don't see it, I apologize. Like I said, we've got this thing is booked up, and so with all the questions coming in, it's just going to be tough. But I'm going to do my best. Just please bear with me, and don't repost the same question over and over and over and over again. Okay, so with that said, we are going to officially dive in and get started. Again, my name is Ryan Deiss. I'm going to be your host for this training on conversion funnel optimization, or how to become unbeatable in any market. Just so, for those of you guys who don't know who I am, like I said, my name is Ryan Deiss. That's a picture of me. I'm the co-founder and CEO of digitalmarketer.com, and in the last 36 months, my team and I have invested over $15 million of our own money on marketing tests. We've generated tens of millions of unique visitors, sent well over 1 billion emails, and run approximately 3,000 split tests, all in our own businesses. In other words, we actually do this stuff. And I think that that's really what makes Digital Marketer different. In a sea of marketing blogs and research sites out there, people say, like, why is yours different? What makes us different is that we actually do this stuff. We actually market online. We actually have our own products and our own businesses. We don't just make money and have businesses showing other people how to make more money and grow their businesses. Okay, we have real live businesses in the physical product space. We sell chemicals and cleaners online. We sell canvas art online. We sell industrial water filters. We also operate a number of blog and media publishing properties in the survival and preparedness space, in the financial space, health and fitness space. We literally have dozens of different properties that we actually own and run and manage. So when we show you this data, you're going to see a lot of case studies. Just know these are things that we've actually done. It's not stuff that we've read about, it's stuff that we've done. And so when I say try this, feel free to try it, okay? Because it works, and it's worked for us, and it's probably worked across multiple markets, multiple verticals. We also, by the way, have some pretty impressive guinea pigs. In addition to doing this stuff, we do talk about it, and we do have a consulting practice where we do go through the process that I'm going to be showing you guys today with clients, and calling them guinea pig, they may not appreciate that, but we do get to test on their data and their traffic, which is really nice because it gives us even more data and knowledge to share with you guys. Some of our illustrious guinea pigs include the one and only William Shatner, who's a speaker at the 13 Traffic and Conversion Summit, and we've got some really neat offerings coming out with him that you're going to be hearing about, in the next month or so. Also, Neil Patel, who's the founder and CEO of Crazy Egg and Kissmetrics, which are two analytics platforms that I'm sure a lot of you guys use or at least have heard of. And if you don't use them, you probably should. He's a client of ours. Teespring, which I know a lot of folks have heard. They're the kind of the t-shirt selling, t-shirt marketplace startup. We've had the privilege of doing some work with those guys. Also, Tony Robbins, I'm sure many of you have heard of in the personal development space, as well as the Stephen Covey organization. We've had the privilege of working with them a bit. Also, Beachbody. If you've never heard of Beachbody, you probably heard of their two most popular products, P90X, which is a fitness training that if you have a TV, you've probably seen their infomercials, as well as Insanity. So these are just a handful of the folks that we get to work with and hang out with and get some data from and try new things. But it's not just those guys. We also work with people who have language courses, resume services, a fireworks e-commerce store. That's a really fun one. A tax preparation service, a lady that does hormone treatments, fertility coaching. There's one of our clients who has something on how to get rid of man boobs. That's kind of a fun one. E-commerce site for MMA gear, family counseling, a printing store, financial advisors who do college planning, real estate investors, tennis trading, dating and relationship space, personal development consulting services. You get the idea. We've had the opportunity to roll out exactly what I'm going to show you guys across literally dozens and dozens of verticals. So like I said, when I say that this stuff works, it's because we've had the opportunity to test it in so many different verticals. And no matter who we're working with, whether it's William Shatner, rolling out a new book, or Neil Patel and the SaaS applications that he's working with, or the different folks that you saw there, service providers, things like that. Our model focuses on just 5 things. Okay, there are 5 things that we concern ourselves with when it comes to growing businesses, and even when it comes to starting businesses, there are 5 things that we focus on, and it's the same 5 things that I'm about to share with you and break down in great detail. So, why does this matter to you? Right? You may be thinking, why does this matter? Why should I care about any of this stuff? Well, what you're about to learn about here with conversion funnel optimization is it really is the key to virtually unlimited traffic. A lot of people come to me and they say, Ryan, how do I go about getting more traffic to my website? How do I go about getting more traffic to my business? Well, really, there's no such thing as a traffic problem. If you have a good offer that's well optimized and a conversion funnel that's well optimized that allows you to extract in a good way the maximum value from each and every one of your customers, then traffic is not an issue. You can go out and get all the traffic you want, whether it's paying affiliates a higher commission, whether it's hiring the best and the brightest SEO experts or media buyers, whatever it is that you're doing. If you are able and willing to spend the most to acquire a customer, which is really what conversion funnel optimization is all about, traffic takes care of itself. Okay, it absolutely takes care of itself, and I'll prove that to you as we move on. It also enables you to get unstuck and focus on what matters. A lot of the folks that we work with, whether it's in our War Room Mastermind or whether it's a client or whether it's just a friend that we're hanging out with, we find that most business owners get stuck. Even folks who are wildly successful, they'll reach a point and they will get stuck, and this is usually caused because they're kind of out of ideas. Right? And this happens sometimes, right? You've got your respective bag of tricks, you deploy it in your business, and then you just run out of ideas. It happens to all of us. But the bigger thing that I see getting business owners stuck, and maybe you can relate to this, is they can't focus with all the bright, shiny objects that are flashing around them, whether it's Facebook ads or YouTube ads or doing some type of social media strategy or, I really should launch a podcast or, this thing over here sounded great. We need to do a blog or whatever it is. All good things, by the way. There's nothing that I mentioned that isn't good and that isn't worth doing. But it's the bright, shiny objects that remove your focus from, in some cases, what you really need to get unstuck and to grow to the next level. So what you're going to learn here is the foundation. This is the most important thing. Now, you can layer up on top of it optimization things like traffic, how to get more traffic, how to increase your conversions, increase your engagement. All those things are good, but without the foundation that you're getting here, the results are going to be fleeting no matter how successful they are. Also, This allows you to declare independence from a lot of the gun-to-the-head business relationships that are out there. So what do I mean by that? I mean, there's a lot of folks that we work with, and this may describe you, where the vast majority of your traffic is coming from affiliates, right? So the affiliates, they really got you. You know, they're your only source of traffic. They've got you, and if they don't realize it yet, they soon will. There's people where you know your gun to the head is Google. Right? You're getting all of your traffic from SEO. If that doesn't concern you, it should, because SEO is changing. It's changed dramatically, and it's going to change even more over the next 12 months. And if that's your primary source of traffic, if you're receiving more than half of your traffic today from Google, I would be very, very, very concerned if that's all you got. Okay? This allows you to break free from that. It allows you to have a much greater diversity of traffic sources. And it allows you to win in multiple markets because this blueprint is universal, and you've already seen that just by the quick snapshot of some of the markets that we've deployed it in. So just so we're clear, this is a conversion funnel, okay? Pretty simple. There's 5 aspects of each and every conversion funnel that we're going to be breaking down, but this is a pretty simple conversion funnel. In fact, it's a conversion funnel from one of our businesses. Now, this is a conversion funnel on drugs. I don't know if you remember that ad campaign from like the 80s and 90s where it's, you know, the egg and this is your brain on drugs. Well, in this case, this is your brain on this is your conversion funnel on steroids. Okay, this is where we ultimately want it to be, where it's a full reflection of all aspects of the funnel and where things are going to go. And you know, my goal isn't necessarily for you to be able to build something like this after this webinar. That's going to be a little bit more difficult. But if you can at least understand what your 5 things are and deploy those in your business, you're going to be light years ahead of where you are today. Because most of the businesses that we work with, out of the 5 things, they're only going to have 2, maybe 3 at most present at all. And of those 2 or 3, only 1 at most is even going to be well optimized. So this is where we like to take it. But even if all you do is, you know, create a simple one like this, you're going to be light years ahead of your competition. So like I said, our methodology really centers around these 5 things that I've been talking about. And the 5 things are the lead magnet, the tripwire, the core offer, the profit maximizer, and the return path. Now, you don't have to write all those down right now because I'm going to be covering each one of them step by step and talk about how they wind up integrating together. And I'm going to go through these in order. So this is, you know, I'm going to be throwing a lot at you guys. All right, this is an in-depth like crash course on funnel optimization that you're going to get. You know, basically what we would do in a day or 2, compressed down into an hour. So we're going to be moving quick. So think fast and take notes even faster. All right. When it's all said and done, it looks something like this, right? You have a page that offers a lead magnet. After somebody opts in for the lead magnet, you're going to offer them a tripwire, which is a very low dollar, high conversion offer. Then you might make them your core offer. Now, most of the people that we work with, they don't have a tripwire. If you don't have a tripwire and you've never heard of that phrase, you're going to want to pay especially close attention there. Oftentimes, there'll be a downsell to the core offer. That's why it's listed twice. And then the profit maximizer. I'm talking about upsells and things like that. And then with the return path, it's the things that you do to get people to come back. So this is basically a rough kind of framework of one of these conversion funnels. Now, there's some nuances here that are really important. So it's not just a matter of, oh, I get it, I'm going to sell them something, make some upsells. That ain't it. That's what most people do. And if you do that, you're going to get the results that most people get, which is very ordinary results. I know you want more than that, so this is how you go about getting more. Now, I'll give you an example of a promotion that if you're on our list, you may have seen. So you can get a sense of really the importance of having a complete funnel and not just having a single core offer. So this is an example of a tripwire. This is a book that we published with Frank Kern, and it's a book on how to sell high-ticket consulting services. This particular page right here, which is an example of a tripwire, we'll go over that in a little bit, got a 16.87% conversion rate. 16.87% of the people who hit this page took out their wallet and actually gave us money. That is a crazy high conversion rate, but that's the power of a tripwire. That's why you're going to want to pay attention when we get to that section. But that obviously that's not all. Tripwires are very low ticket. You can't necessarily eat off of a tripwire. So that's when we then made them a core offer. In this case, as you can see here, the core offer was sold for $297. It received a 4.65% conversion rate of the people who hit this particular page. Then what we did is we did a downsell for the people who didn't buy that. We split it up into payments. That was an additional 2% approximately. Then we had an upsell that was another 2 times 97 that got a 3.45% conversion rate. We had a couple of other back-end profit maximizers or upsells on the back. So let's break all this down, okay? So because the numbers aren't really what's important. These are the numbers that matter the most, all right? Contribution to revenue. What most people do is they go out and they create a product, whether it's a piece of software, a SaaS application, a book, an ebook, a course, a physical product. They've got a product. They've got a core offer. Now, in this case, the core offer produced 56% of the total revenue that this campaign produced, that this conversion funnel produced, which means the rest of the funnel produced 44% of the revenue, almost half. So had we just had the core offer, we would have left half our money sitting on the table. All right, it's an oversimplified explanation, but that's what the vast majority of people are doing. Here's another example. This was from the Black Friday bootcamp that we held at the end of 2013. We do this every year. It's a $7 webinar, and all the money goes to charity. But we do charge $7 to join the webinar. So this $7 offer received a 10.88% conversion rate. Pretty good, right? There's a lot of landing pages and squeeze pages that don't get a 10.88% opt-in rate. After people bought, we then offered them a core offer that received a 9.14% conversion rate. And then we had a downsell like we did last time. Another 4.51% of the people took that. And then we had a couple of profit maximizers on the back. So here are the numbers for this. Check this out. On this one, the core offer only generated 32.8% of the sales. Okay? The rest of the sales came from the other aspect of the funnel. That 67.2% is what we got by having a well-optimized conversion funnel. Over half of the dollars generated from this. So what that means is when I'm going up against a competitor who only has a core offer, I can literally spend twice as much as our competitor to acquire a customer and still have money left over. That's the power of a well-optimized conversion funnel, and that's what we're going to be covering today. So how can you apply this? All right, well, let's break down each one of these step by step, talk about some of the best practices and what need to be in there for it to be considered a well-optimized conversion funnel. The first step in just about any conversion funnel is going to be the lead magnet. And a lead magnet is simply a small chunk of value. It can be a report, a blog post, a short video, but a small chunk of value that solves a specific problem for a specific market offered in exchange for an opt-in. Okay, that's why it's a lead magnet. You're getting a lead, and the magnet is the thing you're giving them to encourage them to give you their contact information. Now, why lead magnets? Well, the answer is simple. Prospects want immediate gratification and something that they can sink their teeth into now. All right, they don't want, and this is why one of the worst lead magnets in the world is sign up for my email newsletter. Right? That doesn't necessarily promise immediate gratification. So a lead magnet is that one item, that one thing that you can give them that solves that specific problem that they want it now. And that's the thing that encourages them to take action. Here's kind of a quick checklist of what we look for in a quality lead magnet. Number one, it needs to offer an ultra-specific solution to an ultra-specific market. The biggest problem that I see with lead magnets is they're not specific enough. And I'll show you an example of one that is specific and the importance of specificity. It also should promise one big thing. I see so many lead magnets where they're like 7 steps to this or 14 steps to that, or that's not what people want. I don't care what market you're in, and we've tested this. They want the magic bullet. They want the one big thing. It should also speak to a known desired end result. So what do I mean by that? Again, so many of the lead magnets are this like tepid, learn how to do, some weird bizarro thing that people don't even necessarily care about, right? You need to know what your market cares about, and I'll show you how to find what that is in just a second. It should also offer immediate gratification. We talked about this. So the multi-day email courses, newsletters, even podcasts, I'm not saying you shouldn't do them. They just don't make the best lead magnets, because lead magnets need to be something that has immediate gratification. If you think about it in terms of a relationship, if you're going to ask somebody out for a date the first time you met them, you want to go out with them as soon as possible after that initial interaction. If you say, hey, we should go out sometime, are you free next month? By the time you get around to meeting with them, whatever energy was there that encouraged the asking for a date is probably going to be gone. In fact, they may have already found somebody else who's willing to move a little bit faster, and it's no different with your customers. It should move them down a continuum of belief, so it should It should get them excited about what it is that you're selling. It should change their state, and I'll show you an example of that in a little bit. And it should have a high perceived value. So it shouldn't just be something that's junky, right? It should be something that they're excited about, that the value is considerably higher than what they would normally get for giving somebody their email address. And it should have a high actual value. It should contain an aha moment. It should make them feel good about the fact that they gave you their email address. Look, email addresses have value. When somebody gives you their contact information, they give you permission to contact them again. That's value. They have exchanged value with you. They've given you value. So there's an expectation, rightfully so, on their end that you return value in exchange, preferably over and above what they've given you, or they're not going to do business with you anymore. And it should be consumed in 5 minutes or less, and we'll talk about why that's important as well. So when we talk about specificity, this is what I mean. If I were targeting the investor market, I wouldn't want to do something generic like how to trade stocks, right? My market may want to know how to trade stocks, but that's way too broad. Instead, something like, these are the top dividend stocks, or even better, back to the one big thing, this is the #1 dividend stock trade for 2014, right? That's what people are going to want. That's what's going to get them excited. For Forex traders, MetaTrader tutorials, right? Or a specific MetaTrader tutorial. Now, if you don't know what MetaTrader is, it's probably because you're not a Forex trader, but that's the trading platform that most traders use. So speaking in their language is another way to be specific. For bloggers, here are the top WordPress plugins, right? Or here's the #1 membership site plugin for WordPress. Or here's the #1 lead capture plugin for WordPress, right? Those types of things are really going to appeal to bloggers. If I'm talking to single guys, the KISS test, right? The KISS test. Evan Pagan did this perfectly in his original Double Your Dating offer, where that was his lead magnet. He said, look guys, opt in for this list and I'll tell you about the KISS test, how to know if a girl is ready to be kissed. And it was the simplest thing in the world. It was delivered via like 6 paragraphs, and it was the simplest little lead magnet, but it was exactly what these guys wanted. It wasn't, how to date women. That would be generic. It wasn't even how to pick up women at bars. Again, way too generic. It was something very specific. How to tell if a girl is ready to be kissed, because every guy who's ever gone out on a first date knows that awkward moment at the end of the night when you're trying to figure out, can I kiss her? Is it okay? Am I going to seem like a weirdo if I kiss her? Am I going to get rejected? Am I going to seem like a prude if I don't? She's not going to want to go out with me? Like, it's a very stressful thing. So it solved a very specific problem for a specific market. Horse owners, how to get your horses to stop cribbing. Now, if you don't know what cribbing is, then you probably aren't a horse owner. If you're a horse owner, though, and you have a horse that is cribbing, you know exactly what it is, and you want them to stop because it could kill your horse. For preppers, survivalists, people like that, how to purify your urine. Now, this sounds weird, right? Kind of a little bit disgusting, but we tested it. This was one of the best lead magnets in that particular market because, if you're in a survival situation, you need water, and one source of water is your own urine. So if you can purify that, hey, I guess technically you've got a somewhat endless supply, right? So, but again, kind of gross, but a specific problem for a specific market. It's not just a general how to purify water, it's how to purify urine. Just, that's kind of gross. Makes you throw up a little bit in my mouth. And I can tell that you guys from the comments are just loving that example too. You're all disgusting. No, I'm just kidding. For golfers, how to drive the ball 10 yards longer. So it's not how to drive the ball farther or even how to outdrive your buddy. It's drive it 10 yards longer. Here's an example of specificity that came from one of our clients. So Jody Underhill is one of our lead consultants for our consulting group, and he sent this over. One of our clients, their original lead magnet was sexy texting. How to stir up your wife's emotions with sexy text. Now, again, I know this is a little bit PG-13, but this is a great product. Here's a guy that's teaching men how to really reignite their relationship with their wife. I think it's great. So that's his original thing. Sexy texting, how to stir up your wife's emotions with sexy text. And my thing was, it's not specific enough. Stir up your wife's emotions. What is a sexy text? None of these are, they're not really getting nailed down. So Jody came back after I went to him and I said, no, we got to make it more specific. Jody came back with sext her to bed. Push your wife's hot buttons by pushing a few buttons on your phone. Now, that's a little more specific, but it's still not specific enough. And this is the mistake that a lot of people make when they're titling reports and lead magnets. They get a little bit cutesy with it, right? So push your wife's hot buttons by pushing a few buttons on your phone. That's cutesy. that might win a poetry contest in a group of perverts or something like that. But it's still, you never want to trade something that's cutesy or clever for something that's specific. So here is what I came up with. Sext her to bed. The simple 14-word text message that will have your wife begging you to come home for lunch, right? So this does a couple of things. Number one, the simple 14-word text message. Now, when I wrote this, by the way, I had no idea how many words were in any of these texts. And I told Jody, I was like, look, if it's 21 words, change it to 21. If it's 7, it's irrelevant. The point is it's specific. How many words are in this text message? Also, it's not talking about sexy texts. Look back at the original one. It's multiple text messages. Well, then the guy's thinking, okay, so I got to try to pick the one that's going to be best for me. How do I know? Again, what they want is the magic bullet. Look, here's one text that if you send to your wife, she's going to be begging you to come home for lunch. And the other thing, that begging you to come home for lunch, that creates a picture in the mind. It's evocative. So if you go back to that, if you wrote down everything that was on that checklist, it's specific with the 14-word text message. It's evocative. It creates a picture. It's offering one big thing, and it changes their state. So in this case, the guy's thinking, you know what? I've got a marriage that's maybe it's on the rocks, or maybe they're going through a rough time. It happens, but it allows him to think, you know what? I may not be able to get us back to when we were honeymooning, but if I can just send this text and maybe I get a giggle out of her or something like that, then maybe we'll have something. It changes the state of the man. It gets him to believe that, yeah, I can do this, which is important because that also sets him up and makes him open to additional transactions later on. If somebody's not hopeful, if somebody doesn't believe in you and what they're doing, and more importantly in themselves, they're not going to be as willing to invest in themselves moving forward. So the lead magnet should make them feel that way. I'm spending a lot of time on the lead magnet right now, guys. I'm not going to spend this much time on the other 5. It's just that this is the start of the funnel. It's so important, and if you screw this one up, none of the other ones matter because your prospects aren't going to see it. Okay, so hopefully you saw that. So just to reiterate, this is not a lead magnet. Subscribe to our newsletter is not a lead magnet. There's nothing specific. There's no immediate gratification. It's not one big thing. It's nothing. It's not a lead magnet. So just kind of quick poll, if you guys can kind of look. Let me know like what's wrong with this lead magnet in the chat box over there and in the question box. What are you seeing here that's wrong with this lead magnet? Yeah, you're already saying it's 6 survival reports, right? It's a 6-part. I know it's kind of hard to read. It's a little bit blurry, but it's a 6-part series. Now, when we changed these up and offered just one report at a time instead of here's 6, when we just broke it up and just sent them to different reports one at a time, opt-in rates actually went up. Even though it was technically less value, opt-in rates went up because it was more specific. Now, what we wound up doing is when they got to the back end on the thank you page, we told them, hey, in addition to this one report, we got 5 others that you're getting as an unadvertised bonus. So I'm not saying that you can't still give them all 6. If you want to add extra value, just don't market it on the front end because it's typically going to yield lower conversion rates. So this wound up working better. Grow enough food, there it is right there, grow enough food to feed a family of 4 in just 4 square feet of space, even if you don't have a yard. So look at that. Enough food to feed a family of 4, specific, in just 4 square feet of space. Specific, even if you don't have a yard, again, even more specific. We talked about how it should speak to a known desire, and it should be really, really specific. This should prove once and for all the power of specificity. I'll tell you a little story. This was a book published back in 1982 by a lady named Nora Hayden. It was called Astrological Love. Now, if there ever was a book that was non-specific, that's it. What is astrological love? Who really knows? Apparently nobody knew. It wound up selling less than 5,000 copies, but it was actually republished a few years later under a new title, How to Satisfy a Woman Every Time and Have Her Beg for More. By the way, I apologize for all of the kind of sexy examples. It's just these are the most evocative, and these are going to be the ones that actually stick in your head. All right, so the title changed from Astrological Love to How to Satisfy a Woman Every Time and Have Her Beg for More. Now I ask you, which is more specific? Which speaks to a known desire? Right? Do people want to achieve astrological love? No, nobody knows what that is. Now, do men want to know how to satisfy a woman every time and have her beg for more? Yeah, you bet. Only every single red-blooded American male. So how did this book do when it was republished? So essentially the exact same content, new title, new promise. But here's what it did. When it was republished in 1998, it went on to sell over 2.5 million copies and become a New York Times best-selling book. That's the power of a title. That's the power of a specific lead magnet that speaks to a known desired end result. So with that in mind, how would you guys improve this lead magnet? This is for the site Social Media Examiner. It's a great site, great content. But I think that they could actually improve upon their lead magnet. I'll read it in case it's too small to see. It says, join 2,005,000 of your peers, get our latest articles delivered to your email inbox, and get the free Facebook marketing video tutorial. So how would you improve that? So a lot of you guys are commenting on just that you like the social proof, that there's 205,000 of your peers, and I agree, that's good too. Yeah, okay, seems like most of you guys got it. Free Facebook marketing video tutorial. It's not specific enough. What free Facebook marketing video tutorial? Are you going to show me how to generate 250 leads from Facebook in 18 hours? Which is actually one of our case studies and one of our lead magnets, right? Way more specific. Nobody wants a tutorial. People want the desired end result. The desired end result is not, I just can't wait to wake up tomorrow morning so I can consume more tutorials. That's not what anybody wants. People only want to consume a tutorial so they can get some desired end result. So just skip the tutorial part, promise the desired end result. If it's watching a video or reading a report, that's fine, but focus on the desired end result, not on the fact that they're just going to get some emails and some tutorials. Rapid consumption. This is an example of a lead magnet that we have in the trading space. It's a video that's only 2 minutes and 24 seconds long, but it shows them very quickly, look, here's how to do this. Okay? Very, very quickly. If you take too long, if the lead magnet's too long, if it's a 500-page book, they're probably not, it's a big roadblock in your conversion funnel. Okay, so you want to have these be pretty quick. Some more lead magnet examples, the blind or benefit-centric lead magnet. So how did this investor pocket $1 billion in one day? There's no specific, it's specific, it's promising to tell you how an investor pocketed $1 billion in a day. I mean, that's specific, and who doesn't want that? So it speaks to a desired end result. But there's nothing specific as to the medium of the lead magnet itself, right? It's not saying free report or free video or anything like that. And what you find is when you opt in, you get access to a sales letter that does in fact tell you how he did it, but it's in the context of a sales letter. This strategy is good because there's no speed bump whatsoever. They go straight from the opt-in page to your very next step in your sales page, which is likely a Tripwire. Without any break in between. The downside is it's not the best exchange of value. Toolkit and resource list are a simple one, right? Here's free access to 3 amazing online marketing resources for kicking your business into high gear. Here's a internet business toolkit. This example could be a little more specific, but toolkit and resource lists are really, really, really good. We actually did this with a company that we own in the water filtration space called Rapid Filter. And before, they didn't really have a lead magnet. And so they were getting approximately 6 new prospects per month, people that were just finding them and calling them up and saying, hey, I'd like to buy some filters, maybe. Give me a price. About 6 per month, next to nothing. What we did is we added this to the top. Okay, we added this right here. You can see there's the wholesale catalog and price list. It's just a resource list, right? It's not necessarily content. It's just, here's the wholesale pricing list. When we added this and said, fill out this form and we'll send you the wholesale list, remember they were getting 6 per month before? It switched to getting 6 per day on average, all right? That's the power of a lead magnet, and it's nothing tough. We basically just send them our catalog, just a resource list. But a 20x increase in qualified leads definitely didn't do anything to hurt that business. Assessments and tests are great. HubSpot does a good job with this with their marketing grader software. Quizzes and surveys, a buddy of mine in the golf space that puts people through a quiz or a survey. You've probably seen a lot of examples of these where what they're actually getting as an exchange of value is the answers to the quiz or how they performed in it. That can be very effective. If you have an e-commerce site, discount or free shipping. This is a buddy of mine, Ezra Firestone, one of his properties that he sold. If you signed up, you can see it right there at the top. Join the discount club and save 5% instantly. So a 5% discount was the lead magnet that tested the best. Cheat sheets and handouts, especially you see the one that we have on the right-hand side that was for a training we did on how to import from China. If you look, that mind map there is a little bit fuzzy. That's not just the resolution. It was intentionally fuzzy We didn't want them to be able to see what all was on there because we want it to be a curiosity device. But these types of cheat sheets and handouts are really good because, again, they're that silver bullet. Free downloads and trials if you have software, really common in the software space. Evernote does a good job, in your email address and create a free account. So that's the lead magnet. Hopefully you got some ideas for optimizing it. Let's talk about the Tripwire. This is the one that most people don't have at all, okay? And this is the one that could potentially be the biggest breakthrough for you in your business. So what is a Tripwire? A Tripwire is simply an irresistible low-ticket offer that's sole job is to convert prospects into buyers, okay? The job of a Tripwire is to convert prospects into buyers. Now, why do you need a Tripwire? Why not just go, thanks for opting in, now buy this course for, $100 or $200 or $300 or $1,000, or this really, really expensive product, whatever your core offer is. Why not do that? Well, the reason being, that's kind of the equivalent, going back to the dating and relationship example, that's kind of the equivalent of walking up, if you're a guy walking up to a girl and saying, hi, nice to meet you, my name's Bob, would you like to go home with me tonight, right? I mean, you're kind of asking for, or maybe, hi, nice to meet you, my name is Bob, you seem like a really nice person, want to get married. Okay, you're kind of like asking to get married on a first date. A Tripwire is the equivalent of, hey, would you like to have coffee? Would you like to grab a drink together? It's a very low barrier to entry, but hopefully irresistible offer that at least it gets the relationship started and it changes the state from prospect into a buyer. You see, even if somebody's giving you just $1, they're no longer a prospect, they are now a buyer. The relationship between you two is fundamentally different. That's the power of a Tripwire. So if we're kind of going to make a Tripwire checklist, this is sort of what would be on it. It needs to be low barrier to entry or an impulse buy. Typically, this is going to be something less than $20. Books make really great Tripwires. So do webinars. We talked about those. I'll show you a bunch of examples of Tripwires in just a little bit, but it needs to be priced such that price is no object. It's the pack of gum when you're in line at the grocery store. Okay, nobody thinks like, nobody's ever been there and said, oh, look, a pack of gum. I kind of would like some gum. But you know what? I'm just not going to spend the 89 cents, right? Nobody says that. You either want gum or you don't. If you want gum, you buy the gum. It's not price that's going to prevent you from buying the gum. That needs to be the same with the Tripwire. And depending on your market, that could be $2, it could be $20, it could be $50, it could be $100 in a B2B space where somebody might have the authority to spend, $5,000 without putting a purchase order or getting approval. $100, that's an impulse buy. So there's not a magic price point, but just think, at what point is price not an object? It should also be easy to understand and explain. If you have to go through a lot of explanation to get somebody to buy your Tripwire, it's too complex and you're going to lose them. Going back, think about the status of the relationship at this point. They've opted in, they've given you their email address, but they don't know you, they don't trust you. They certainly don't know yet if you're going to deliver much in the way of value to them, and so they're not willing to give you much of their time or attention. That has to be earned, and has to be earned through consistent quality, consistent, solid transactions, and you're just not there yet in the relationship, okay? So to tell them, and again, I'm going to show you some examples. If somebody comes in, you say, well, we've got this amazing flux capacitor. What it does is it triangulates the atoms in the third dimension, and they come together and form a crystal, and the crystal's compressed and then broke. I mean, you lost them, right? But if you say, like we do in the survival space, this is a knife. It's sharp, it cuts things, and it's very stabby. Would you like the knife? Nobody says, like, I don't understand, what's a knife, right? They all know what a knife is. If you say, this is a report that's going to show you how to purify water, even urine, they get that. They know what that is. No explanation needed. Yeah, I want that. I would like to drink my own pee, okay? That's the case. So it needs to be easy to understand and explain. It also needs to seamlessly lead to the course sale. So it shouldn't put them off on some wild goose chase. If you know that your core offer is something related to, outdoor survival, then it's good to give them a Tripwire that would be relevant to that. And it should be useful but incomplete, right? You don't need to give away the farm. This is not where, again, you're going to drop an encyclopedia on them for $7. It's not about quantity at this point. It really is about specificity and quality. And like with lead magnets, it needs to have a high perceived value and a high actual value so you get that positive first transaction. Now, the ultimate example of a Tripwire is the Columbia House Records offer. For $1, you got a whole bunch of records, tapes, 8 tracks, depending on when you were buying the Columbia House stuff. For me, it was cassette tapes. For a lot of people, it's CDs. For some of you guys, it might have been 8 tracks or even vinyl, right? The Columbia House record, though, stood the test of time for decades. In fact, at one point, they represented 15% of all music sales, and it was exclusively as a result of the Tripwire offer. When you gave them $1, or even before that, when you taped that penny to the Columbia House record thing, and you put it in an envelope and you sent it back to them, you were a customer. Whether it was $1 or one little penny, you were now a customer of Columbia House Records. The chance of you buying again was infinitely greater than had you never given them money to begin with. So let's talk about some different Tripwire types and examples. There's the physical premium, okay? The physical premium. For anybody who's familiar with Sports Illustrated and how they sell subscription to Sports Illustrated, it's almost exclusively premium driven. Get the football phone when you become a subscriber to Sports Illustrated. Get the fleece pullover when you become a subscriber to Sports Illustrated, right? The physical premium has been used forever. Come into, Joe's Menswear and get a free umbrella, right? The difference with the Tripwire is we want to charge something. Okay, so it's not a pure freebie giveaway because, like I said, we want to change that relationship. So these are some examples of ours in the survival space. In this case, we do give it away for free, but we charge them $2.95 shipping and handling. There's been a transaction, a credit card payment has been received, they're a customer. Okay, that's what matters. And then there's like small but critical items. My partner, Perry Belcher, he dominated the candle supply business simply by selling wicks at dead cost. It was a small but critical item. If you bought a wick, you bought it from Perry. And while you were in there buying your wicks from him, hey, you might as well get your wax and your fragrance oils and all that other fun stuff too. You see a lot of hosting companies giving away free themes, like WordPress themes and stuff like that. Or they'll sell a theme for a very, very low dollar. Designers will do this too. Great, you got this theme for $7. You want me to customize it for you for $500? That's a Tripwire offer. Lower left-hand corner, you'll see a bunch of guitar picks. This is a guy on eBay who sells guitar picks by the 100. Now, who buys guitar picks by the 100? Someone who's really into guitar, right? That's who buys guitar picks by the 100. And so what he's doing is he's selling these things for $8. Get 100 guitar picks for $8. Cheapest, best deal on guitar picks around. But he's building a list of buyers who play the guitar. And then in the water filter space, it was this particular filter. This is what everybody wanted. So we sold it pretty much at dead cost. And if you're going to buy that filter, you might as well buy other filters from us. Books, like I said, make really great Tripwires. They have a very high perceived value, especially if you price them for a little bit less than what a book would ordinarily be priced at. So here's an example, Newsmax, the Obamacare Survival Guide. They're selling a $20 book for $5. It's a great deal. You get a book plus some other bonuses, and they get a buyer. When we did this in the survival space, we first went into this business. They had a list size of 113,000, and they just had one product. They had one core offer that sold for $47. What we did is we plucked out one of the bonuses. It was this 170 gallons a day, this training on water purification. It was originally bundled with the core offer. We plucked it out of the core offer and we sold it standalone for $7. When we went back to the same list of 113,000 people who had been exposed to this $47 offer a bunch of times, it wasn't selling. Like, they had seen it. So we took the $7 offer to them. We sold just under 10,000 units of that in 30 days at an 8% conversion rate. Not too bad. So we had just about 10,000 fresh buyers from a list that was quote-unquote dead. Now, the beautiful thing is 2,500 of those people, a quarter of them just about, bought the $47 course. Now, these were people who had seen this offer before, but now they were seeing it with new eyes because they were seeing it as a customer. They were seeing it as a buyer. The momentum was there. The juices were flowing. So the sale of the $7 item generated just under $70,000 in revenue. The core offer sales was $119,000, so the total sales was $188,674 generated from a quote-unquote dead list through the power of a Tripwire. So just to give you a sense, assuming a 1,000-click snapshot, before the average conversion rate of the core offer at $47 was 1.5%. So 1,000 visitors would yield, about $705. Now what we had was an 8% conversion rate at $7, which was $640 for every 1,000 visitors. But we also had the core offer, which now converted at 30% at $47. There was an additional $1,100 from the 1,000 for every 1,000 visitors. So what we had was a total revenue of $1,768 for every 1,000 visitors. Okay, every 1,000 visitors, so about $1.77 for every was the average visitor value. That was an increase of 160%. Now, when a customer is worth an extra 160%, that's more than 2.5 times, we can now spend twice as much money to acquire a customer and still have a ton of money left over. This is why I said, guys, that when you master this, traffic is no longer an issue. So we could go out to affiliates, and whereas before we were offering a 50% conversion rate, a 50% commission, we could offer 100% commission on the front end and still have money left over. That's the power of a well-optimized conversion funnel. A paid webinar is another type of Tripwire. We talked about that in the beginning. This is one that we did recently. Software and plugins are great. We've got one called Fresh Key that we sell for $20. It's a fantastic little Tripwire. And also a la carte services. So this does work for service companies. We had one of our clients was a marketing services company. They would do SEO for small business owners, and their normal SEO pack started around $500 a month and went up to around $5,000 a month. So that's what they were trying to sell. Now, to a small business owner, forking over $1,000 a month is a bit like asking to get married on a first date, and they were having a tough go at it. So what we had them do at their next trade show, and this is a photograph from the actual trade show, we said, don't do that. Tell them you're going to just set up an AdWords ad for them for $20. Tell them you're going to get them on Google for $20. That's it. Just charge them $20. It's a simple transactional thing. And so people said, hey, they were able to go to him and say, look, we believe that if you guys were advertising through Google AdWords, we could get you at least 100 free customers. So we're going to set that up for you. Just give us $20. We've got some Google AdWords credits that we'll give you. Run it, get some customers, and if you don't get at least 100 customers, we'll give you your $20 back. Well, what was happening is people were coming over and they saying, sure, I'll give you $20, go set it up. And while we were setting it up, we were saying, by the way, we can do a whole lot more for you if you come on as a full-blown client. Oh, really? What's that all about? Now the door was open. Okay? We got coffee with them. Then it was, really, we'd have a lot more fun if instead of just getting coffee, we could go out to dinner, right? That's how this stuff works. With this particular marketing agency, here's how the numbers broke down. That particular trade show, the one that you see here, had 2,000 attendees. 603 people approached the booth just because we made a specific offer. The lead magnet, by the way, was get 100 free customers. Specific offer. 87 people out of the 603 bought the Tripwire, the $20 deal, and 19 of those people converted to $500 a month immediately. They immediately converted to giving us $500 a month, and another 23 more converted via phone after they had got some results. So through follow-up with a return path, which is what we're going to talk about. Before, they would average around 3 new clients per trade show at $500 a month. It was getting so bad they weren't going to do trade shows anymore. From this particular show, they generated $21,300 a month in recurring, assuming a 7-month stick. That's $149,100 generated just from that trade show. Now, I don't know exactly how long the stick was, so this isn't an income claim or anything like that. I'm just kind of running some hypothetical numbers for you. And just to put it into even bigger perspective, there's around 200 trade shows a year that they can do this. Prior to the Tripwire, they never would have been able to do it. So, like I said before, 3 clients at $500 a month was a $10,500 lifetime customer value from that trade show. Afterwards, 42 clients at $500 a month was $149,000 lifetime customer value from a trade show. Plus the 87 Tripwire clients that they can follow up with via the return path who didn't buy yet. They may come back and buy again. Plus the Tripwire sales, that was another $1,740, which pretty much covered their booth costs. All in all, they were sitting pretty, and they were pretty happy. Now, that Survival Life case study that I showed you before, where we plucked out the report and turned it into a Tripwire, that got a 5x increase in total customers, 160% immediate revenue increase. So the trade show case study was 1,437% revenue increase growth. So it went from $10,500 at a trade show to over $150,000, or a $68,240 immediate revenue increase. Again, both of these from the power of a Tripwire. And like I said, an additional $82,000 in return path revenue that came in 60 days later. So that's the lead magnet and the Tripwire. Those are probably the two most important. The rest of these guys are going to clip along really, really, really quickly because as we build, all the leverage is in the front. Let's talk about the core offer, but we're going to talk about this. We're not going to spend a lot of time here because this is the one that actually most people have pretty well optimized. This is the core, flagship product or service that your company provides. This is the one you're most known for and probably the one you're most proud of, which is probably why you spend the bulk of the time optimizing the page that it's sold on, the marketing materials, the script, if it's a phone or a face-to-face selling. This is where the bulk of the work is done. It's also where you probably have the least leverage. Because remember, the goal of business is not just to optimize conversion rates, it's to optimize revenue, right? We could brag about conversion rates all day long, but the business that makes the most money is the business that's going to win. So when I see these guys at conferences and they're talking about, oh yeah, I doubled my conversion rate from 2% to 4%, don't get me wrong, that's great. But what you're basically saying is, yeah, high five, instead of 98 people out of 100 leaving without giving me money, only 96 people out of 100 are leaving without giving me money. I mean, if you think about it in those kind of terms, it's ridiculous. And doubling conversion rate on a core offer, that's not easy. That takes some doing, and I'm not saying that it isn't worth doing, but what if instead we focused on the lead magnet and we got twice as many people coming through the funnel? If the conversion rate remained the same, you'd have twice as many people without messing with it. What if we added a Tripwire in there that generated twice as many customers, and that and that was structured in such a way where it was useful but incomplete, and set up the core sale that it actually helped increase that conversion rate as well? What would happen then? Getting more. That's where your greater points of leverage are. That's all that I'm saying. So I do want to give you some tips, though, on how you can optimize this step of the conversion funnel, the core offer. Big tip number one, nothing converts like proof. Okay, this was an offer that we saw in the golf space, and it was one of the most elegant offers I've ever seen, one of the most elegant sales process I've ever seen. Basically, this guy, the video starts, and this guy just drives a golf ball through a piece of plywood. He sits there, whack, drives the golf ball through a piece of plywood and says, hi, my name's Bob. I can drive, the golf ball really far. As you saw, I just drove it through a piece of plywood. If you opt in here, if you buy my course, I'll show you how you can hit the ball as hard as I do, right? Nobody questioned whether or not this guy knew his stuff because you just watched him drive a freaking golf ball through a piece of plywood. Really, really, really impressive, right? But all too often when we're working with clients, we found that they bury their proof. The proof will be down at the bottom, right? If you've got proof, especially if it's demonstrable proof, meaning it could be demonstrated, put that at the top. Lead with proof. Big tip number two, the sequence is critical. Now, we don't have enough time to talk about sequence. Literally, sequence could be the concept of sequence and selling is an entire 3-day training, all by itself. So what I would refer you to, again, my business partner, Perry Belcher, he wrote a fantastic blog post called the 21-Step Sales Letter that lays out what your sequence should be. And if you get out of sequence, it's going to impact conversion rates. Like I said, it's the same thing like going up, if you get in the dating and relationship space, if you get it out of sequence, if you try to kiss a girl before you've said hi, you're probably going to get slapped, okay? It's the same thing with your customers. They may not slap you, they're just not going to buy from you. And big tip number three, optimize your order forms. Order forms are a huge, huge point of leverage with the core offer. One of the things that we found when we were doing some testing on our order forms, we used Crazy Egg, which is Neil Patel's software, because it'll tell you where people are clicking on your page. And what we found is that people were clicking on our guarantee seal, and they were clicking on the secure checkout image. They were clicking on images that didn't really make any sense. And, for us, they were just images. But when nothing happened, people were bouncing. They were abandoning. So what we did is we made all of the images on our order form clickable. So when you clicked on the guarantee seal, it popped this up. Order today with confidence. Complete your order today, And if for any reason you don't absolutely love this product within the next 60 days, we'll refund you, no questions asked. It simply restated the guarantee. Same thing if they click the secure checkout. Order with confidence. This page is protected by 250 billion secure, encrypted, blah, 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 gobbledygook. You get the idea, right? Making the order forms clickable, just that in and of itself, cut our cart abandonment rate in half. In other words, sales doubled. If you cut your cart abandonment rate in half, that's because sales just doubled. It was one of the most simple and elegant things that we've ever done to yield such massive results, and yet so few people do it. Now, here's kind of an abbreviated offer testing checklist. We actually have a full-blown 22-point offer testing checklist, but this will give you kind of an idea. What I want you to pay especially close attention to, though, is we test price last. Okay, we want to really dial in an offer, and that's what most people test first, right? We really like to dial in an offer. We have the price as low as we can possibly stand, and then once we have that offer dialed in, we start to ratchet it up and raise the price bit by bit by bit until we see the resistance. But optimize first and then test price, because what you're doing is you're testing your highest leverage point once it's been fully optimized. All right, that's just kind of another quick little tip there. All right, the fourth big thing is the profit maximizer. So we've talked about the lead magnet, which is obviously how you begin that introduction. It's hi, my name is Bob. We talked about the Tripwire, which is how we convert them from a prospect into a buyer, or that's the equivalent of would you like to grab a cup of coffee? Now you're converted from strangers into possibly friends, right? To follow that same parallel path. We talked about the core offer, which is getting them where you really want to be, which in the dating space might be, we're dating, we're exclusive, we're going steady, if people call it that anymore. I don't know. You get the idea. And now there's the profit maximizer, right? The profit maximizer is kind of how when your customers make when they convert from just merely being customers or buyers into being raving fans, right? So this is when you're getting married. All right, that's kind of what the profit maximizer is. So whether it's an upsell, meaning you're offering someone more of what they already bought, so want to go on some more dates, a cross-sell, I want to go on a trip, right, a related product or service, or a subscription, every offer needs something on the back end to increase immediate average customer value and overall engagement. That's the profit maximizer. It's not enough. If you sell somebody something once, they're a customer, okay? They're a buyer. When they become a multi-buyer, meaning they buy multiple things from you, that's when they move to a different place again. That's when they become a fan. So here are 7 types of profit maximizers. There are a few more, but these are the biggies. The immediate upsell, the cross-sell, Slack adjuster, bundles and kits, value buckets, line extensions, premium subscriptions. Don't feel like you got to write them down because we're going to go over all of them right now. So the classic immediate upsell is you want fries with that, right? You just bought this. Here's this other thing that would just be perfect to accompany this. Now, here's how to really screw this up, okay? You can really screw this up and you can really alienate and piss off your customer by offering an immediate upsell that they believe should have been in the core offer. So imagine if it was, thanks so much for buying this hamburger. As an added bonus, we'll also give you meat, right? No. Meat comes in a hamburger. Or, I appreciate you buying that Rolls Royce. As an added bonus, if you'd like to give us another, $5,000, we'll throw a steering wheel in as well. No, you expect a steering wheel to come with the car. But people do this all the time with their stuff, okay? It needs to be fries. Fries complement the hamburger, right? If you buy a hamburger, you don't expect fries to come with it necessarily. But they do complement it. That's an immediate upsell. This is one of the ways with one of our a business that we owned and actually exited from, that we sold, where we kind of killed 2 birds with one stone. Number one, we increased immediate customer value, but we also resolved one of the largest customer complaints that we were getting. This is for a company called Cleveland Equipment. And what they do is they sell packaging equipment. One of the top sellers was this heat sealer. You can see it right there on the right-hand side. The heat sealer sells for about $250. Now, the only problem with these heat sealers is the heating element goes out of them. It's sort of like a light bulb. The element in a light bulb, how sometimes it'll go out. Same thing happens with heat sealers. It was kind of the only thing that customers complained about. So what we did is we sold, and you can see it right here, a replacement element kit. So we said, we'll give you 2 additional elements for just $60. So we were able to resolve a customer complaint by saying, oh, you can buy some extra elements. These things do burn out. And also, the margin on those heating elements is almost 100%, whereas the margin on the heat sealer itself was fairly low. So we were able to essentially to come pretty close to doubling the net value of each customer by resolving something and by offering something that was very relevant. This is absolutely fries. Then there's the cross-sell, right? And Amazon does this better than anybody else. Customers who bought this also bought this. So, it may not be necessarily that, maybe you bought in this example, let's say I bought a book on personal productivity. What about getting another book on time management? Or what about a book on how to do Outlook, right? Because a lot of people use Outlook for time management, right? So that's an example of a cross-sell. Not immediately relevant, but still related to the market. Then there's the Slack adjuster. The Slack adjuster is the really, really, really expensive thing that maybe only 1%, 2%, 3% of the people in your market are going to buy it, but when they do, it's big. And the clearest example of this that I can come up with is the $800 cappuccino machine that Starbucks sells. So when you go into a Starbucks, you can spend $4, $5, $6, $7 on a cup of coffee, or you can spend $800 on a cappuccino machine. Now, how many people walk into a Starbucks and buy a cappuccino machine? Not very many, but it doesn't take a lot to make up for a whole lot of cups of coffee. That's the power of a Slack adjuster. Consulting, by the way, is one of the best Slack adjusters in the world, and you can do this in almost any market. If you sell software, you can upsell a higher level of service or installation help or onboarding help. If you sell a product, a physical product that requires assembly, you can offer assembly. Obviously, if you sell an information product, you can sell some type of a consulting or done for you on how to use it. So that's kind of a good evergreen Slack adjuster. Bundles and kits. A lot of times, a lot of our clients have fairly low margin items. So this is an example of a low margin item. It's a Mercur razor. It's a $30 razor, so a pretty expensive razor. But if you're buying these things wholesale, you're probably not making more than $8 to $10 off of this razor when you sell it. The bulk of the money is going to go to the manufacturer. So what you can do is you can bundle and kit it. So in addition to having a razor, now if this razor sells for $30, check out this kit of things. You don't just get the razor, you get the stand, you get the brush, you get the little bowl where the soap goes in. This sells for $112, but all those other items are much, much higher value. So when you can either bundle it with the core offer or upsell it, so hey, you just bought this razor, would you like to get the kit as well for only an additional $80 or $50? You got a lot more margin in that. There's value buckets. Don't buy one, buy 2 or 4 at a time. It's really great for consumables. And then line extensions. In the water filter business, they sell water filters. But do you know what these water filters go into? They go into these things. They're called housings or canisters. That's what the water filters actually set down in. Now, when we first started working with the company, they didn't sell these things. But their customers want them. So we went out and found wholesalers so that we could sell them. So think about what else does your customer want, even if you don't currently offer it. And whether you got to do a wholesale deal or a license deal or an affiliate arrangement, keep them under your roof. And then there's recurring billing. Tanning salons have been doing this for years. There's also a car wash in my area that does this. Get your car washed unlimited times for $35 a month, right? This is a way to get them to come back and buy again and again and again, but you only have to make the sale once. Birchbox does this in the e-commerce space. You get a box every month filled with cosmetics and things like that. We did this in the survival space. We added a monthly premium newsletter called Lamplighter. We added it to the back of our different products as a profit maximizer. And when I took this screenshot, we had 8,449 members, which was $168,557.55 a month. Now, I want to tell you that's an old screenshot. Today we have over 20,000 members at just about $20 a month. So you can pretty much double this, a little more than double this, and get a sense of where that stands today. And we did it just by adding a subscription offer to the back of products that they were already selling. Pretty simple. That's the power of a profit maximizer. Now, the ultimate formula for crafting a winning profit maximizer is this: speed and automation. Speed and automation. Write that down. Speed and automation. If you want to create an upsell that won't annoy anyone ever. You will never get a single complaint from one of your customers. Do this. Hey, you just bought this product on XYZ and it's great. It's going to get you exactly the results that you wanted. But my guess is you would like to get those results faster and doing less work. So if you're interested in getting the results faster and doing less work, we can offer you this. Now, what that is some form of speed and automation. So it could be software or an application, right? So it could be you just bought a book on how to format ebooks to sell on Amazon Kindle. This book is absolutely going to walk you through all the steps that you need to do, but you know what? We also have a piece of software that you can upload your book and it'll just do it all for you. Would you like to do that? Same end result, just faster and less work. Okay, so you're not selling them something new. The end result is the same. That's the biggie. Same with if you offer done-for-you service. Hey, you just bought this book on how to convert Word documents into Kindle ebooks. Would you like us just to do it for you for one low price? An audit or a strategy session, we'll get on the phone with you and we'll talk about how you can do this. Private labeling. This happens, you can do this in the e-commerce space. So if you find that, going back to the Cleveland equipment example. So we sell heat sealers, but let's say we found out that the people that use heat sealers, what they're putting in their heat sealers is they're making their own potpourri, just hypothetically speaking. So they need dehydrators. So we could private label somebody else's dehydrator, so they could dehydrate flowers or whatever. I don't even know how to make potpourri. I'm just making this up as we go along, guys. We could private label somebody else's so that it's, you just bought the Cleveland equipment heat sealer. Would you also like this? You just bought this heat sealer that's going to allow you to package your potpourri. Would you also like this thing that's going to help you make the potpourri? You get the idea. Templates and themes are a biggie because that's essentially done for you. Supplements. This is used all the time in the fitness industry. You just bought this course on how to lose weight, or you just bought this exercise training. Our clients and friends at Beachbody do this. You just bought Insanity, and Insanity is great. You're probably going to vomit while you're just doing the warm-up, but you know what? When you get out there and you actually use Insanity, you're going to get the results that you want. But if you want to get the results even faster, you should take these supplements. And they offer different supplements, whether they're pills or protein shakes. Also, in terms of an application or an apparatus, you can do push-ups, but we have this special bar here that's going to enable you to do push-ups and get the results even faster. Right? Those types of things. That's where the equipment and tools come into play. So those are some examples of speed and automation upsells. All right, we're almost done, guys. We've gone through 4 of them. The 5th one is the return path. So what is a return path? Well, thanks to the lead magnet offer, we now have the ability to go back to our non-buyers and put them in a follow-up series to increase initial conversions. Okay? So just because they didn't buy the first time doesn't mean we can't get them to buy it another time if we follow up. We also get to go back to the buyers of the Tripwire who didn't buy the core offer. The buyers of the core offer who didn't buy the profit maximizer. That, by the way, is where your funnels can look like the one that I showed you at the beginning. This is a conversion funnel on drugs, right? When you get really advanced return path type stuff. There are 5 different types of return path. There's constant strategic communication, automated follow-up, exit offers, banner retargeting, and custom audience marketing. So the first one, constant communication. This one's pretty simple, guys. Look, if you aren't broadcasting your email list at least once a week, you obviously hate money. We had a client for years, and he's still a really, really, really good friend, and he's in our War Room Mastermind group. He sold ink toner online, toner refill kits and things like that. This guy had over 100,000 buyers on his list, and he never sent them an email because he was afraid if he sent them an email that they would unsubscribe. Well, what was the point of having them all unsubscribe if you're not going to mail them anyway? So now what he started doing was just once a week, he'd run a promotion. Hey, get this particular type of ink toner for 20% off. He'd just run a different promotion. Just about doubled his business just from sending an email. Okay, simple thing. Make sure you are communicating with your market. They're going to forget about you. You got to communicate with them. Think about dating and relationships. Okay, if you're in a relationship and you don't talk to somebody for a week, that's weird. That's bad. That's not a sign of a good relationship. In fact, you probably talk to them almost every day. So you should probably be communicating with your customers and your prospects almost every day, but at a bare minimum, once a week. Then there's automated follow-up. Now, this can get really ornate and complex, or it can be as simple as this. This example, this is a website that sells a book on how to stop biting your nails. Okay, common problem, one that actually affects my business partner, Perry Belcher. So he went to this page, he was biting his nails, and he opted in for this list. And he didn't buy the course the first day. And you know what? Most people don't, right? The vast majority of your sales are going to come from the follow-up. So the next day he received an email, and the subject line was, "You still biting your nails?" And the email copy went on to say, hey, I noticed that you came by our site and you downloaded our report on nail biting, stop nail biting secrets. If you're still biting your nails, then you really might want to consider upgrading, getting the full course. Go over here to stop nail biting, right? That was all it said. Pretty simple. The next week, he still doesn't buy. A week goes by, and he gets an email from him. "You still biting your nails?" The exact same email. This person sent the exact same email every single week. Now, that's a pretty simple automated follow-up, but you know what? It's better than nothing. It's a little bit obnoxious, but hey, one day, sure enough, Perry was sitting there biting his nails. That email came through, and he said, "Screw it, I'm buying." Okay? You don't know how long it's going to take for somebody to tip over the edge and become a buyer. So you got to stay in front of them with automated follow-up. Now, we get pretty fancy with this. With our clients, we typically deploy a 3-phase follow-up process that we call the machine, that has offer follow-up, a Ferris wheel, a bucket, and it can get as ornate as you want it to be. But hey, if you just got to send the same email every time, that's better than nothing. All right, exit offers. Exit offers are a type of return path, right? Because you're getting them to come back to your site. They're leaving, and you're saying, no, where are you going? Come back. Some exit offer ideas are to offer a new lead magnet, highlight an unadvertised bonus, quizzes and surveys, sales and discounts, or make a new appeal. I'll go through those one by one. So a new lead magnet, let's say somebody came to our site and it was on how to purify water, and they're leaving, right? Maybe they're not that interested in water. So we could exit pop hey, don't care about water? How about food? Want some food? Here, this will show you how to do that. That's a new lead magnet. You could also pop an unadvertised bonus. We did this with a training that we released a few years back called Mobile Local Fusion. We had a bonus buried in the offer where they would get this postcard, that would a client getting postcard. And unfortunately, it was a fantastic bonus. The customers who got it loved it and raved about it, but unless you watched the entire sales presentation, you didn't see it. So all we did is on exit, we simply highlighted the bonus. That was it, pretty simple. Quizzes and surveys work really well. They work really well on entry with lead magnets, why we talked about it there. They work really great on exit because they're very non-confrontational. Offering a discount. Wait, before you go, I'll give you 75% off. Sale or discount, pretty simple. Or just make a new appeal, right? You came here to learn about conversion. When they leave, tell them, here's how to get more traffic. Okay, make a slightly different appeal. Those are some good exit offer campaigns. Then there's banner retargeting. Banner retargeting, like I said, is a training unto itself, but if you've ever gone to a website and then all of a sudden the ads for that site are following you all around the internet, that's banner retargeting, okay? A little cookie was set in your browser, and so now these ads are able to follow you around. It's a pretty advanced traffic generation strategy, but used properly, it's a fantastic mechanism to be deployed in a return path. So are Facebook custom audiences. Okay, with Facebook custom audience, you can actually upload your list. So once you have opt-ins, once you have leads, once you have Tripwire buyers, you can upload those to Facebook and advertise just to them. So for all your people who opted in to your list but didn't buy your Tripwire, you can upload them to Facebook and advertise your Tripwire. For the people who bought your core offer but didn't buy your upsell, you can advertise your upsell, right? You get the idea. So when we're working with clients, when we're doing this with an internal company, what we do is we use this tool right here. And we plot it on a map. So we take the 5 things going down the left-hand column. So there's the lead magnet, the Tripwire core offer, and we say, what do we have right now? What's the control? Like I said, for most of the businesses that we're working with, they can't fill most of these spots out. They might have a lead magnet, they might have a core offer. Some will have some profit maximizers, but very few will have Tripwires and very few will have return path. Then we'll say KPI. So what's the current opt-in rate of the lead magnet, conversion rate of the core offer, conversion rate of the profit maximizer, conversion rate on people who go through the return path. That's KPI, key performance indicator. Then we'll write in a recommended treatment. So what would we do to optimize this for the lead magnet? It might be come up with a more specific title. For a Tripwire, it might be, create one because most of them don't have it. For a core offer, it might be tweak the order forms, do some of those things. For the profit maximizer, it might be, switch from selling something unrelated to selling something related, or switch from selling kind of more of the same to selling speed and automation. And for the return path, it might be, switch from sending a single email to having a complex, three-phase machine. And then we project out, what do we expect the change to be? And it's really, really powerful. We then take this and we create one of these. We plot a diagram to show the full funnel, and we're able then to hand that off to designers and to coders and to get these things built out really quickly, really inexpensively. And we have an asset here in this funnel that our competitors don't, and most of them will never see it because most of these things take place behind the scenes. This is sort of like, the iceberg in the ocean, where you just barely see the top of it, and everything else is happening down below. That's how we like to think about our funnels. Now, if this sounds hard or looks complicated, that's because it is. All right, these things are fairly complex to create if you're just going to go out there and model one on your own. That's why we went ahead and we created the funnel blueprint. All right, the funnel blueprint is a training that we put together that is a step-by-step plan for building the perfect conversion funnel. Now, full disclosure, we have a consulting group that does this for people, that does funnel build out for some of the clients that you saw earlier on. But that can typically averages between $15,000 and $25,000 to do a full funnel architecture. And we knew that there were a lot of businesses that simply couldn't afford that, or they weren't quite ready for that. And so what we wanted to do is we wanted to package all of the trainings and SOPs. Basically, we wanted to take the training that we have internally to train our own consultants so they can do this for our clients, and we wanted to essentially open source it. We wanted to make it available to the public so that for people who can't afford or are not ready to have us do it for them yet, you can still get the benefits and you can go out there and you can follow the exact same steps and processes that we do. So what I'd like to do is talk to you about this for a little bit and kind of explain how it works and how it's broken down, and then show you how you can get access to the funnel blueprint. The way that this is broken down is over the next 28 days. We really want to be able to power through this in about 4 weeks. We're going to build you a list, construct a machine that converts those leads into buyers, create a sales funnel that converts buyers into raving fans, and get all the traffic you need. Now, we're not going to obviously go out there and build a list from scratch or anything like that, but I think you've seen that once you have a powerful lead magnet, list building becomes a lot easier. And as you've also seen, once you have the ability to spend more than your competitors to acquire a customer, traffic kind of takes care of itself too. So the funnel really is the answer. And like I said, it can all be done by this time next month if you hustle. In other words, you'll finally have one of these. And once you have one of these, believe me, it's an asset that will reap rewards for years and years to come. All right, so here's how this goes down. Here's how we're going to do this. It's broken down into 6 step-by-step modules where we cover each one of the 5 steps in great detail and then show you how to tie it all together. In Module 1, the lead magnet, we're going to talk about the 10 types of lead magnets and when to use each. We're going to talk about proven landing page layouts and formats. We'll show you the 8 places you need to offer lead magnets on your website, and give you the 8-point lead magnet checklist as well as the 16-point landing page checklist. These are the exact same checklists that our consultants use when they're working with our clients. This is our internal collateral that you're getting access to. In Module 2, we're going to talk about the Tripwire in much greater depth. We'll talk about the 6 Tripwire types, which ones are most effective for which businesses, how to find the cheese in any market, that cheese, the thing they really want more than anything, that leads to these crazy 10 and even 15% conversion rates. We'll talk about how to source physical product tripwires inexpensively, because I know a lot of you guys were asking questions. I saw I wasn't able to address them there, but how do I do those physical premiums and things like that? I don't know how to do that. We'll talk about how to do it, source it really inexpensively, and also how to get these things shipped out to your customers without you having to manage the inventory. And you'll get the 5-point Tripwire checklist. Again, this is the exact same checklist that our consulting team uses. Okay, you cannot distribute these checklists or post them anywhere else. They are gold for us. Okay, but you can use them in your own business. Module 3 is the core offer. We're going to talk about the 21-step sales letter formula that pretty much always works, the power of proof, and how to find it even when you don't think it's there. So if you're sitting there and you're thinking like, yeah, I love that proof thing, but I don't have somebody driving golf balls through plywood, we'll show you how to find the proof even if you don't think it's there. How to optimize your shopping cart to slash cart abandonment rate and increase conversions, and the 22-point offer optimization checklist, and we'll go into much greater depth on why you should always test price last. Again, this is the one that we use internally. You're getting it as well. Just the checklists alone, by the way, if all you got was those, it would be worth the investment. Module 4, we're going to talk about the profit maximizer, the 10 types of profit maximizers and when to use each, the most desirable and simplest profit maximizer of all, and the 3-word sentence that you need to sell it. You only need 3 words to sell this particular type of profit maximizer. It applies to just about every business. We haven't really found one yet that it didn't apply to. So if you're sitting there thinking, well, I love the idea of having one of those profit maximizers, but I can't think of anything, we'll have one up and running for you tomorrow. The 7 types of speed and automation upsells and how to deploy them so that your customers will love you and be happy to make additional investments with you, plus example upsell paths that you can swipe and deploy in your own business. Module 5 is probably going to wind up being the single most valuable module of all. We're going to talk about the return path and the 5 different types of return path campaigns, how they fit together and how you actually deploy them. We're also going to give you the tools and resources that you need. So if you're looking at that saying, how do you do those exit pops and how do you do all that stuff, we'll give you, show you all the tools that we use. But here's the biggie. In this module, you're going to get 6 turnkey campaign swipe files created by Frank Kern. Now, Frank Kern's name has not yet come up on this webinar, but the truth is, it should have been mentioned. It should have been mentioned long ago because Frank's actually my co-creator in this particular training, and one of the most valuable additions that he gave were 6 complete campaigns that you can copy, tweak, and paste into your own offers and into your own funnels. So if you recall back to that 3-phase machine that I showed you before, you'll basically get to just pick and choose from the 6 turnkey campaigns and kind of copy and paste, and boom, you got your own machine. Just these particular campaigns have sold separately by Frank for $3,000. Okay, just this one part of this one module sold by itself for $3,000, but Frank was kind enough to make it available to you guys. And then we're also going to talk about 5 exit campaigns, which ones work the best for your business, and then we'll have a putting it all together module where we'll show how do you sequence these things, order them, even get into some of the technical stuff of how all this gets tied together with shopping carts and things like that. So again, you're getting the exact system that we deploy in all of our businesses, the same system that produced over $30 million in revenue just in our businesses last year, and the same system that we deploy for all of our celebrity clients. Again, all these guys right here, the Shatners, the Neil Patels, the Anthony Robbins, the Stephen Coveys, the P90X folks. These are the same, you're getting access to the same strategies that they got. Now you may be wondering, what's the price? Well, like I said before, our clients pay anywhere from $15,000 to $25,000 to architect one of these funnels for them, and a complete build out. I mean, if we're going to do everything soup to nuts, writing copy is a minimum investment of $50,000, and most of them go up to $100,000, and it's well worth every single penny. I mean, our clients are able to ROI these things very, very, very quickly. Until recently, our private mastermind, which is $15,000 a year minimum to get in, they were the only ones who had access to any of these materials. And you and I both know that classes like these typically sell for $2,000 to $3,000. And there's one particular $3,000 training that Frank Kern has sold in the past that he's just throwing in as a bonus. So even at that, it would be a really good value. And this one's worth way, way, way more than pretty much all the other $2,000 and $3,000 courses I've seen. But obviously, you're not going to pay $3,000 or $2,000, which would be more than fair. This is way, way more affordable than that. If you go over to funnelblueprint.com/join, you will see that you can enroll today for 3 easy payments of $786, or you can save $786 and make one payment of $1,572. So if you want to go ahead and take care of all of it today, it's one payment of $1,572. depending on how fast you get over there, that's what you're going to see. Now, if you are one of the first 10, we're actually going to be cutting the price in half because we really want to motivate you guys to move. So if you're one of the first 10, you can get in for just 3 payments of $386, or save about $200 if you pay in full and make one payment of $958. So for $958, you get complete access to the training, complete access to all of Frank's swipe files, complete access to all of our proprietary checklists, resources, everything to go out there and build one of these things for yourself. Or if you like, you can have us do it for you for $15,000 to $25,000. We can touch base about that after this webinar if that's something that you're interested in. But if I were you, I'd give this a shot at seeing if maybe you can't do it yourself. So here's what you need to do next. Go to funnelblueprint.com/join. Select a payment option and get your login info, and then you'll have instant access to Module 1. So you can immediately start diving into Module 1, and then we're going to be releasing new modules each week. Some weeks we're going to double up, depending on the amount of content, so that you can get through this all in 30 days. But we are dripping it out because you do have action steps, and we want to make sure that you don't get overwhelmed. So that's how the program is structured. funnelblueprint.com/join. So just to recap, over the next 28 days, we're going to build you a list by optimizing and having a crazy good lead magnet that people actually want. You're going to construct a machine that converts leads into buyers, create a sales funnel that converts buyers into raving fans, and get all the traffic that you need, because now you can afford to spend as much as you got to spend to get that dang traffic and still have money left over. And it could be done by this time next month, like I said, if you hustle. But it's actually going to get a little bit better. I want to add a couple more things to this to really plus this. I'm going to give you the best guarantee you've probably ever seen anywhere. I'm going to let you take the entire class. Okay, go through the entire thing. Put it to work. Download everything. Okay, download everything. The videos are downloadable. The checklists are downloadable. Everything that's in there is downloadable. You can download it all to your hard drive if you want to, because I want you guys to be able to use this on the go, deploy it in your business, even share it with coworkers and your team members if you need to. I just want you to do it. Then take an extra 30 days. Okay, so 60 days total. You have 30 days to go through everything, and then get an extra 30 days to modify and tweak your funnel. Really test it out. You can get some help from us if you need questions. If you got questions, we're going to be there to help you out in the members area, and see that it works with your own eyes. Full 60 days to deploy, implement, test, tweak, get your questions answered, everything. See that it works, and if by the end of that time you decide that it's still not right for you, let me know and I'll give you a full refund. All right, it's as simple as that. No questions asked, and you can still keep all the checklists and swipe files. All right, whatever you download, you can still keep. And I know there's probably going to be some people who take advantage of this and they download everything and then they ask for a refund and they steal, and that kind of is what it is. I'm not worried about those people. I don't care about those people. Those people are not my customer. They're thieves who would probably get access to it anyway. And frankly, I happen to believe that in life you do get what you actually pay for. And a mentality like that is not going to be the mentality that's going to lead to success. So I'm not really worried about that happening, although I'm sure that it will. What I want you to know is that you have nothing to worry about. The reason that I want to do this is I want you to think, oh my God, this is a complete no-brainer. There's no weasel clauses. There's no shenanigans. It's your word, okay? If you just say it's not a fit, it's not working out, no thanks. Your word. Keep everything. We're not going to have trackers on your computer that are going to find that you downloaded files and self-destruct them or anything like that, right? Tell us that you want your money back, and we'll get you taken care of. I'm confident, though, that once you start putting this stuff to work, and once you start seeing how valuable this is, that you're not going to want to do that. In fact, you may want to be like so many of our clients who started here, come back and say, you know what, Ryan, this is great, but I actually want to go ahead and retain you guys at the client level and come on as a private client. Full disclosure, guys, that's kind of why we're doing it. Even more full disclosure, what you're seeing right now is our core offer, okay? What you're seeing right now is our core offer. A lot of you guys, to even get to this webinar, needed to purchase a $7 Tripwire, whether it was a paid webinar, a report, or a book, or you wouldn't even be seeing this right now. So all the things that I talked about in working a funnel got you here to this place. And what is our ultimate speed and automation upsell, our ultimate Slack adjuster? It's the consulting services. This stuff just works. And I have no problem, explaining and talking to you guys about how this works, because you're insiders now. We're opening the kimono. There's no more secrets. All right? And I don't worry about it. There's going to be a lot of people who take this information, deploy it in their own business, get fantastic results, and they never need our help. And that's great. To you, I applaud. I know that there's going to be a lot of people who dive in because they want to see, does this stuff really make sense? Is this really any good? And they're going to use this as an opportunity to kind of test drive us, to date us, so to speak. And that's perfectly appropriate. And they're going to come back and say, you know what? Yeah, this looks good. I want these guys. I want Ryan and Perry and Frank. I want them working on our business. And candidly, we would almost prefer that people go through this training first before they become clients. That way they're fully educated. Because right now we have a backlog of clients. And so this is kind of a nice little filter that we're putting in place. So that's the deep, dark, dirty secret. All right, now that I've shared the secret and you are still here, I want to plus it and make it a little bit better. Remember the screenshot where I showed you how we had 8,449 subscribers, premium subscribers at $20 a month, and how I also told you how now it's actually up over 20,000 subscribers? Because I believe that subscription and continuity revenue is such an important part of just about any business, I want to give you an additional training. I want to give you Subscription Empire. This is a training that sells all by itself every day for $1,000. All right, we sell it for $1,000 every single day, standalone by itself. I'm sure there's people on this webinar who paid that much for it. I want you to have it. All right, I want you to have it as my gift because I want to make sure that when we get to that step in the Profit Maximizer, you're not left there hanging and saying, oh, this is so great, I really want to deploy one of these premium subscriptions, but I don't know how. I want you to know how because I want to give you that information. I want to give you that content. I also, if you're interested, or if you run a company and you would like to have one of your team members go through this, maybe you have a director of marketing or somebody who builds your websites, if you would like for them to go through this, we have a certification test where we can, once somebody has completed this training, they can then take a certification exam and they can actually be certified as a conversion funnel optimization expert. All right, now this may not mean anything for you if you own your own business. If you happen to be a consultant, it can be a nice little, kind of badge of honor and something to tout to help you get and secure more client deals. But where it can be particularly valuable is if you're a business owner and you're going to have somebody on your team going through this and implementing it for you. Frankly, you want to make sure that they know their stuff. So at the end of the course, there's a test that they can take, and if they pass it, great. If they don't, hey, you'll know that they're kind of wasting your time. Normally, this just the fee to sit for this test is $500. We're going to waive the sit fee for you, and when it's ready, again, this will be offered after all the modules have gone out. You'll receive an email where if you would like to take the test or if you would like to have somebody in your team take the test, they'll have the opportunity to do that, again, totally for free. Also, since Frank was feeling particularly generous, in addition to the 6 email campaigns that you're getting, he said, you know what, I also have some really good swipe files from some offline direct mail campaigns that I've written. Now, we don't talk about direct mail a whole lot because we're a digital marketer, but direct mail, offline snail mail is still extremely effective, especially in the return path. That's why he's also going to give you that swipe file as well, which is another $500 value. And you're also going to get Frank's, all the archives of his Mass Control newsletter. This was Frank's best stuff that went out to his highest level members. Folks paid $297 a month to be in this particular program, and it went on for about 3 years. You get all of the archives, okay? Every single one of these, each one of them a $297 value over 3 years. Guys, you do the math. Whatever 36 times 300 is, you could do the math and get a sense of what others had to pay for the same information. So I think you'd agree, when you add those bonuses in, this really kind of does become an absolute no-brainer. Just for the bonuses alone and the checklists and the swipe files, like I said, that's worth the $958. So just to recap, you get the 6-module funnel blueprint training, you get all SOPs, checklists, and swipe files, you get Subscription Empire, which is a $1,000 value, you get to sit for the certification exam if you wish, which is a $500 value. You get the offline direct mail swipe file, another $500 value, and all of Frank's Mass Control newsletter archives which is a value, frankly, too big to even bother computing, but you get the idea, and you get it all, for the $958. Like I said, you can save big by enrolling now. So if you're one of those first ones that are over there, you get to save big. It's 3 easy payments of $386, or you get to save an additional $200 by making the one payment of $958. So if you want to break it up, that's absolutely your choice. If you want to save a couple $100 by taking care of everything today, that's even better. You also get the best guarantee we've ever offered ever. Take the whole class, download everything, put it to work, test it, ask some questions, take an extra month. And if you aren't satisfied, you just get to keep the dang thing, okay? And you get all of your money back. Now, fair warning, I do plan to raise the price of this week. We are doing this as an initial test. I want to see what the volume is like. I want to see how many people we get into this program. And I want to see how many of the folks who go through this program convert into actual funnel optimization clients. If it turns out that we get the surge that it looks like we're going to be getting, certainly just from going in and looking at things right now, the price is going to be doubling because we want to be able to manage the flow. We're also going to be removing some of these bonuses. Certainly the Subscription Empire bonus, since people buy that every single day, can't leave that in there forever. And Frank was also a little bit timid about giving all access to the archives of his Mass Control newsletter, since so many people paid so much money for those in the past. He really kind of wanted to pull that out. So if you come back, if we offer an encore presentation of this particular training, don't be surprised when you watch it and none of that is mentioned in there. So again, guys, funnelblueprint.com/join if you want to dive in and get in the training. At the end of the day, you've watched this entire presentation. You clearly know at this point that you need a funnel. You clearly know that this is going to be the difference maker in your business, and you know that this is a killer value. Certainly with all the bonuses that are there, with the fact that all the risk is essentially on me. So go ahead, take advantage of these discounts and the bonuses now. Do it today. It's not going to be any different tomorrow. The offer is not going to be any better tomorrow. In fact, there's a good chance that it will be worse because these bonuses will be going soon and the price will be going up. And remember, it is fully guaranteed. If you aren't happy for any reason, you get your money back. And just kind of to make one last sort of logical argument for this, consider this hypothetical example. All right, let's say that your business generates $1,000 a day. Now, you may be looking at that thinking like, oh my gosh, $1,000 a day, I can't even imagine that. That's all the money in the world. So if that's the case, then assume that it's making $1,000 a month, right? Maybe you're looking at that saying $1,000 a day. I couldn't pay my, half of my employees if we only did that, right? Then assume it's $1,000 a second, right? This is hypothetical. This is not an income claim. So just kind of put this in whatever category, you and your company fall into. Well, if you were to double the leads, assuming you were still able to maintain your same conversion rates, which if you're setting up your lead magnets the way we're going to show you how to do it, you absolutely should do that. In fact, oftentimes we increase conversion rates when we go out and deploy the right kind of lead magnets because it moves them down that continuum of belief that we talked about before where it can actually increase conversion rates. But let's say they maintain, right? If you double your leads, then your business just bumped to $2,000 a day without tweaking anything on your main sales page. If you double your conversions, right, which once you have a Tripwire in place, it's very possible to double your conversions because you're creating so many buyers, and that's actually causational. Once somebody has bought from you once, they're more likely to buy from you again. It causes them to be more likely to buy from you again. That's the power of the Tripwire. And you saw that example with the in the survival space, where when we went back to that old dead list of 113,000 people and promoted a Tripwire offer and got almost 10,000 fresh buyers from a list that was quote unquote dead. All right, with the Tripwire and with optimizing your core offer, using some of the strategies we talked about there, leading with proof, fixing your sequence, optimizing your order form, you can see how it's possible to double your conversion. So if you do that, now you're at 4,000 a day. What if you could double your profit margin? Okay, what if you add in certain Slack adjusters and speed and automation upsells, the type of immediate upsells and cross sells that I showed you. If you can do that, you've already acquired the customer. The bulk of the cost has been incurred. So it's not difficult to double your profit margin once the cost of acquiring the customer has already been absorbed. So if you do that through the profit maximizers, now you're at $8,000 a day. And then what if you can double your frequency through return path, through exit offers? What if you can get people coming back and buying more often, or people who didn't buy coming back and buying again? Now you're up to $16,000 a day. That's a 16x increase. All right. Now I'm not saying that this is going to happen to your business, right? You may not be able to double every single one of them, but now do you see why our clients regularly see their businesses double or triple? You know, you can see how a little tweak here, a little tweak there can have a dramatic geometric impact across the business when you have a fully optimized 5-step sales funnel. You miss one of these steps, all right? You leave one of them out, and you've lost a massive leverage point. That's why you got to have all 5. So hopefully at this point you're seeing this as a no-brainer, certainly if you're still here. Needless to say, this investment should pay for itself in no time. And even if your business is new, right? Even if you're looking at this and your business is brand new and you're saying, wow, I have a business that's not making any money yet because it's brand new. Look, this is worth doing just because you'll have the peace of mind of knowing it's being built the right way the first time. There's nothing more frustrating than spending time and energy and effort and money, right? Having programmers go out there and you know, design pages and set up shopping carts and things like that for a funnel that's just broken, for a funnel that's poorly designed, right? If you do this, you'll know that it's being built the right way the first time and that you're not going to waste a bunch of time and money. So what's that worth to you? You know, what's that peace of mind worth to you? What's it worth knowing that, yeah, you're probably actually going to do this now that you know the steps to take? There's no doubt setting up a sales funnel, even just a simple one, it's complex. You saw it here. And this was, man, we packed it in. There was still a lot of information here. Before, you didn't know anything about most of this stuff, I'm betting. You know, now you do. Now you have confidence. What's that worth? How likely are you now to move forward? How much more likely will you be to move forward if you know that you have, you know, all the checklists, all the SOPs, all the swipe files, all that stuff? So we are wrapping up right now, guys. So again, go to funnelblueprint.com/join. Again, funnelblueprint.com/join. Select your option. I obviously recommend that you go ahead and take care of it today if you can possibly afford that. In my experience, the folks who go ahead and do that, who say, you know, yep, I'm going to go ahead and make the commitment today, could be totally correlational, right? Those tend to be the folks that get the best results. They're the ones, because I believe they're making just a commitment. They're in it to win it. Now, if you don't want to do that, no hard feelings, no harm done. Believe me, it's perfectly fine. Break it up into the payments. I just want you to have this, okay? So whatever you need to do to get access to this is fine. I just want you to have it because I know what a difference maker it is. So with that said, guys, I'm going to sign off. I'm going to let you go. Again, funnelblueprint.com/join. I want to thank you all for being here. I apologize if that I wasn't able to answer more questions. I actually had a lot more content and information than I thought I had, so we had to really, really move there. And given that we're coming up on almost the 2-hour mark, wow, I don't know if you realize that. We've been doing this for almost 2 hours together. I want to go ahead and let you guys go. So go ahead, go now. We're going to, there's not a whole lot else to say or cover. Go over to funnelblueprint.com, select the payment option that's best for you, get your login, get access, and dive in and let's start doing this thing. It can really start today. Okay, so go over there, and I'll see you on the inside. Thanks so much for being here with me, and we'll talk again soon.